Hi, this is Deidre, and you're listening to Love 101.
We are here for the broken, wounded and shaken. We're here to give a helping hand in any way we can. Right here in love 101. Right here in love 101. Right here in love.
We celebrate every blessing, pulling down every cursing through the music we play and the programs we share right here at Love 101, right here at Love 101, right here at All the children can stay. But love you did. But love you did.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Pleasant good morning. What a wonderful day it is to be alive. I'm Courtney Morrison, sitting in for Reverend Bishop Harold Steve Blair. Welcome to The Rock. We're live on Love 101 FM, the family station. And we're sure today's topic is going to be one that will really intrigue, bless, and also admonish. So, I hear our guests are now called the Rockers. Steve come up with these fantastic phrases, but we're on every Tuesday from 10 a.m. until midday Jamaican time. And we stand on the rock and discuss all sides of biblical issue. It could be any topical, common or not so common biblical subject that we all are curious about or just want to understand more. Issues that may have the church, its congregants, and society as a whole, just thinking and even questioning what we thought we knew was gospel, but instead we find ourselves actually asking the question, what does the Bible say? We cause believers and unbelievers to consider or reconsider the things they have heard, studied, understood, or read. We force churchgoers to consider dialoguing on issues very often glossed over, ignored, or misunderstood. On The Rock, we do our best to show Christians how we can advance through the Word of God. All views contained here. Yeah, man. But when we are finished, we ask the question, can they withstand the what does the Bible say test? The Word is our foundation. This is not a debate nor a dictatorship. And so a special welcome to all our listeners on Facebook and YouTube Live and to those on love101.org. Also welcome to those joining us via the Love 101 FM app, downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. Today's topic was originally planned and scheduled for October 28th, but we all know what happened. Hurricane Melissa came on the 26th with more water than we could ever imagine and changed our plans. Can you imagine today's program is entitled Wonder of Waters? But if nothing else reminds us of the power of water, the passage of Hurricane Melissa did and still continues to remind us. We drink it, we bathe in it, and we depend on it more than we are thankful for. We think we are entitled to it, so we forget its value. But across the Bible and in many cultures, water carries many powers. It heals, it purifies, it decimates, it rebirths. From baptism to deliverance, from river gods to anointed water. Why does it carry so much weight, especially spiritual weight? What does the Bible say today? We will be talking about the wonders of the waters. Waters, indeed, as the waters cover the sea, so we want the glory of God to cover this earth. But before we go there, let me share for the next couple of minutes on some unrelated thoughts in a piece of Courtney's mind. And I'm hoping that when I'm finished sharing a PICE of my mind, it will leave us at PEACE. Let me first say congratulations to our winter bobsled team who won the gold in that competition there in Canada, beating out the illustrious Canada and all other teams. Can you imagine Jamaica, which don't even have snow, much as an ice rink, much as a bobsled um, runway, won the gold. In case you all haven't heard yet, it is so, and it's just amazing. Some good things are happening. The word gospel means good news. Good news. And I'm a bit frustrated hearing bad news these days. Sometimes I don't even listen to the news because of that. But indeed, as I speak about the news, and I want to touch a topic that touches the church at heart, I don't know if one day it will become a topic for the rock. But there are so many persons who are here prophesying doom, gloom, earthquake, another hurricane, another disasters. And it's not so much the fact that they are prophesying these things that's disturbing me. What's disturbing me is almost as if they are gleeful, cheerful, really waiting to see that it happens, to say that they were the ones who declared and God spoke to them about it. I am frankly very disturbed. Very disturbed. And, I made a presentation just on Sunday at a church, and I'm saying, can you imagine? We have the hindsight of what happened with Job. And I believe the enemy may have gone before God and said, there's a nation that has the most churches per square mile. It's called Jamaica. And I believe if you were to tear down the churches and to hit down everything that they say they believe in and that they're called a Christian nation, that they would not worship you. They'd end up cursing you. They won't be like Job, who'd bow down and just worship you. And when we look, we do see that so many churches, if not almost every church on that western end of the island, were decimated. But these prophets, and some of them have been doing it over the years, prophesying. The hurricane was supposed to have landed at Morant Bay, then it's supposed to have been in Kingston, until it got to a place where it came on shore at a place called New Hope. I don't know how many persons have recognized that the hurricane made landfall at a place called New Hope. So Jamaica reset. Jamaica, I'm praying that persons will recognize that mercy triumphs over judgment. The scripture declares that. And I'm praying that our prophets and those who love Jamaica will come to a place of recognizing that our mindset needs to be changed. Miss Jamaica fell off the stage. Miss Jamaica Universe. We drew the match against Curacao, and people are saying all sorts of things about Jamaica. And not to mention our leaders of the nation, although the scripture has taught us that we are to pray for leaders and that all authorities are set up by God. My God. Boy, that rested heavily on me. I feel better that I've said it out aloud. But it's time that this nation comes together, our churches especially, pull together in on one accord. Who knows? Jamaica Accord. We had a name of a group like that once. And I'm hoping that Jamaica and the Jamaican persons, yes, we're seeing some good things, but we're also seeing persons exploiting others. It's time that the church arise, that the church should do what it should do as Jamaica rise, and that indeed we will be able to arise again, and do great things. I would love for some of our prophets to stop and remember if you were under Deuteronomical laws, that after you have made certain prophecies and that have not come to pass, that you'd have been stoned to death. And probably if those laws were still in existence, so many of our church persons would not wear the title prophet. Well, they would not be alive to wear it anyhow. So, what am I saying? I'm saying, let us rise together, let us talk together, let us ask for the mercy of God, and let us ensure that what we present to this nation, especially church leaders, that we present a united front under God so that Jamaica may increase in beauty, fellowship, prosperity, and play a part in advancing the welfare of the human race. So much happening, and we see also Bonishaw coming back to help the girls to start their World Cup qualifying group. Jamaica no curse, Jamaica no under Obia. Principalities and powers are against this nation. The church must come together, arise, and launch an attack against it. That's what happened with Melissa. That's why she couldn't come on shore. But the moment we relax, something else happened, and so many mocked God. So that's a piece of my mind. This nation will arise and will do well and will come better. You know, we have two guests today, Sir Daniel Dodd and Reverend. Let me ensure I have the names correctly. I know Sir Daniel Dodd is supposed to be with us this morning, and Bishop Garth Minot to discuss. I don't know if they're on and would like to discuss with me a piece of my mind. Yeah. You know, I just felt I needed to share that somehow as church we're acting as Job's friends, you know, who were just ready to say, Job, you must have done something wrong. Why God has decided to do this to you? Everything went another way. It was more that Job would have to end up praying for his friends and saying, hey, be careful. It's time, you know, Job did this, and I love what he said when he said, I didn't even gloat in my enemy's misfortune. When will the church come together and present such a front? Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Bishop, we talk more and tell persons more who you are. Daniel is a regular guest. Bishop, Minot, how are you today? What's happening? Talk to me.
Well, good morning to you, and good morning, Daniel. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
It's good to be on, and I have been here before with my other colleague, Bishop Blair. So it's good to be on, and looking forward to the discussion.
All right, bless you. Thank you very much, Sir Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Blessings. How are you
Blessings.
today? You're looking young as usual, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Say you're young.
Now, for me, the world know, you know. But all is well. I'm honored to be here yet once again. I do agree with you on the notion that yes, we can be a bit quick to judge. You know, if the word that I know, according to 2 Peter 3:9, and it reads, "The Lord is not slow concerning his promises, yes, as some count slowness, but is long suffering towards us, not willing that any should perish, that all should come to repentance." And I believe at the end of the day, though we may be destined to have, you know, perhaps a drastic end, but God always ensures that he puts in measures that we have the ability to repent. You know, when I hear you talking, I hear of the story of Jonah, and he had charged him with the responsibility to go to that city. I believe it was Nineveh. Yeah? And at the end of the day, though, yes, judgment was required to be upon them, but still he granted mercy. I think we still have that opportunity to be granted mercy by the grace of God.
Yes.
You know, so in this time, it's more so, it should be a focus that the church reach the lost souls. You know, that's what we're here for. You know, we're commanded to go into the world and preach to all nations and baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit and all of that.
Amen.
So, you know, we tend to focus a lot on negativity, and people, you know, just gravitate towards that, you know, sadly. But it is what it is. Yeah, man.
Sad indeed. It's now 10:15 and we're taking our first break. When we get back, we'll be going to feature Behind the Bible by Roland Gale, where he will be talking about a number of things from museum to lost trails and cities, forgotten tradition and archaeological finds and more. We come right back after this break.
Visit Marshall's Pharmacy in Greater Portmore for all your prescription needs. We have gift items, stationery supplies, household and personal care products, plus print services available powered by Print Corner. Marshall's Pharmacy in Greater Portmore. We go the extra mile for you.
The time by Marshall's Pharmacy is...
Time is now 10:16 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Clean hands are good for your health. In the wake of Hurricane Melissa, protecting your health includes a simple act: washing your hands. Use soap and safe water to remove dirt and germs after cleaning, before eating, and after using the toilet. If clean water is limited, use hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. Remember, clean hands stop the spread of disease and help to keep families safe. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Something big is coming this Christmas.
One unforgettable experience.
Mark your calendars. Saturday, December 20, 2025. The magic of the season is about to hit Jamaica like never before.
Where will it be? Who will be there? Stay tuned.
Because season splendor is coming and you don't want to miss it.
Season Splendor. The countdown begins.
Where are the campus eyes? Students are strapped up in a prize.
November is Youth Month, so we are celebrating the achievements of our young people and empowering them. This Tuesday on Campus Connection, we will be focusing on volunteering in a time of crisis. Jamaicans, whether young or old, are known for giving back and making a difference. Youth are sharing skills, energy, and time in support of rebuilding our beloved nation. Join us as special guests, Force Executive Officer in the Jamaica Combined Cadet Force, Colonel Nicholas Taylor, and Head Officer for Engineer Training and Operations, also with the Jamaica Combined Cadet Force, and a JCCF rep in the National Emergency Operations Center, Major Paul Campbell, as they discuss how the cadets of the force are advancing Jamaica's road to recovery and how youth can get involved to meet the needs of their communities. Plus, don't miss our Creative Block segment with Miss Sasheen White, Head of the Home Economics Department at Charlemont High School, designer and CEO of Sachet's Creation. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign from the Ministry of National Security and Peace. Tune in on Tuesday, November 25 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the program, The Rock. You're live on Love 101 FM. The program is live also on Facebook and YouTube. And you can send us WhatsApp message or voice note us at 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock. Voice notes must be no more than 30 seconds long, and you must turn your radios down while you're recording them. We share them throughout the program. And so we want you to know today's topic is entitled Wonder of Waters. And you can post your comments on this topic on our Facebook and YouTube live page. Remember, we want you to be participants in what's happening today. But before we get into our main topic, we have a feature behind the Bible, and today is entitled Pillars, Pillars, a feature with Roland Gale to discuss both those the behind the Bible topic and the main topic. With me are Bishop Gart Minot and Daniel Todd. But let's just tune in on the feature behind the Bible with Roland Gale.
Welcome to Behind the Bible. Today we're talking about pillars, and pillars appear in the Bible in different contexts, and it is important for us to be able to identify them and to see exactly what we can learn from pillars in the Bible. One of the first times that we see that word occurs when we are reading about Jacob, the patriarch. Genesis 28 verse 18, it says, "The next morning Jacob got up very early. He took the stone he had rested his head against and he set it upright as a memorial pillar. Then he poured olive oil over it. He named that place Bethel, which means house of God." A little later on, it tells us that Jacob intended for it to be a memorial pillar, and he set it up because the place will become a place for worshiping God. That's one context of the word pillar. And then we have another one. In Exodus, we have where Pharaoh let the people go and God began to lead the people out of Egypt. And this is what the Bible tells us when we are looking in Exodus chapter 13. When we run down to verse 21, it says this, "And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night." The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people. And that's really cool. Here we have a slightly different context for the pillar. When we looked at the pillar for Jacob, it was a memorial. It was to help people to remember. But in this instance, the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire represented God's presence. He was there with them, and his presence allowed them to do what they needed to do. The pillar of cloud guided them by day as they walked, and the pillar of fire by night, it gave them light. We have another one, and we're not going to go through all of them today, but there's another one here. And in this instance, we are talking about Lot's wife as a pillar of salt. Wow, what a difference that one is. That represents judgment. So we have looked at the memorial pillar. We have looked at the pillar that represents God's presence. We have looked at a pillar that talks about judgment. But then we also have structural pillars, like when we look at the temple pillars. When you go to 1 Kings chapter 7, we read where Solomon called for a man named Huram to come. And what did Huram do? He cast 2 bronze pillars. Each of those pillars was 27 feet tall and 18 feet in circumference. Man, those are huge, made out of bronze. And he set those up inside the entry area of the temple to hold up and to be a structural point of the temple. So we have the structural pillar as well. So we have the memorial, we have the presence of God, we have the judgment, we have the structural pillar. And then we have also those that are referenced as living stones. God is the living stone. Our Lord Jesus Christ is the cornerstone. In 1 Peter chapter 2 verses 4 to 7 it says, "You are coming to Christ, who is the living cornerstone of God's temple. He was rejected by people, but he was chosen by God for great honor." And it goes on to say in verse 5, 1 Peter 2 verse 5, "And you are living stones that God is building into his spiritual temple." I think that's amazing. There's so many ways that we can look at this word pillar, and we can look at how it is represented in the Bible and how it applies to us. Pillar of remembrance, pillar of God's presence, pillar of judgment, pillar that provides structural integrity, and then we also have the pillar that is symbolic of who we are. Stones that are made to be put into God's temple to help to build up his kingdom. Let's try and remember those different pillars. That was Behind the Bible.
Indeed, that was Behind the Bible by Ron Gale, and he spoke about pillars. Memorial pillars are pillars of remembrance, pillars of judgment, pillars of the presence of God, structural pillars, and he ended by telling us that Jesus is the rock and the cornerstone. He's pillars to those of us in the Christian faith. To discuss the Behind the Bible topic with us are two guests, Daniel Dodd. You would have heard from them earlier after A Piece of My Mind, and the Right Reverend Garth Minor. Let me tell you a bit about these two gentlemen first. I start with the younger of two. Daniel Dodd is currently a student at the Jamaica Theological Seminary and first vice president of its Students' Council. As the president of Kingdom Ambassador Global, Daniel is committed to empowering men to recognize their purpose and walk in their God-given calling. And if that isn't enough leadership responsibility, Daniel also serves as the youth leader for the Spanish Town Youth for Christ organization, a teacher and lifelong student of the Word of God. At his age, it must be lifelong. Daniel is passionate and about shaping people into leaders and transforming leaders into agents of change. And that's about Sir Daniel Dodd. So much more could be said, but we're going to leave it there. We're going to introduce our other guest, the Right Reverend Garth Minot, and he's the Anglican Bishop of Kingston with Episcopal oversight to Cayman and 8 parishes in Jamaica. He is a graduate of UWI and McGill University. He's a human rights advocate, and his affiliation in various capacities with several rights supporting entities is notable. He's an author, and many of his writings has made it into various distinguished print and electronic publications. Gentlemen, welcome again. Your resume are very astute, profound, and great. Right, Reverend? How are you again today? You know, you're in two of my favorite colors in a combination, purple and white. What can I say? It's always happy to know that the church is represented.
That has said a lot. Of course, you know, it's an Anglican school, so.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Gentlemen, we're up on our second break, and when we come back, we want to discuss the topic behind the Bible. The topic was pillars, memorial pillars, pillars of judgment, presence of God. So we take the second break. It's now 10:29, and we'll get back. We get into the topic behind the Bible and also wonders of the waters. We'll soon come back.
Hate long wait times at the pharmacy? Me too. Well, I found Marshall's Pharmacy, located at Pathfinder Plaza, Greater Portmore. Great customer service, shorter wait times, all the local and international brands I want, plus print services powered by Print Corner. WhatsApp your prescriptions to 876-491-7841 and follow them on Instagram at Marshall's Pharmacy. Visit Marshall's Pharmacy in Greater Portmore today. They're open late every day, even on public holidays.
Where are the campus heights? Students are struck up in a prize.
November is Youth Month, so we are celebrating the achievements of our young people and empowering them. This Tuesday on Campus Connection, we will be focusing on volunteering in a time of crisis. Jamaicans, whether young or old, are known for giving back and making a difference. Youth are sharing skills, energy, and time in support of rebuilding our beloved nation. Join us as special guests, Force Executive Officer in the Jamaica Combined Cadet Force, Colonel Nicholas Taylor, and Head Officer for Engineer Training and Operations, also with the Jamaica Combined Cadet Force, and a JCCF rep in the National Emergency Operations Center, Major Paul Campbell, as they discuss how the cadets of the force are advancing Jamaica's road to recovery and how youth can get involved to meet the needs of their communities. Plus, don't miss our Creative Block segment with Miss Sasheen White, Head of the Home Economics Department at Charlemont High School, designer and CEO of Sachet's Creation. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign from the Ministry of National Security and Peace. Tune in on Tuesday, November 25 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101, the family station.
November is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. On the next episode of The Mailbox, we'll be focusing on the global theme, Closing the Empathy Gap. This theme focuses on addressing societal barriers that prevent men from seeking help and prioritizing their mental health. It's all about encouraging everyone to advocate for, listen to, and support men in their lives, promoting a culture where men feel comfortable discussing their emotions and challenges. You are invited to join the conversation with our guest, Mr. Feliciano Thorpe, Guidance Counselor, as he shares on the great opportunity to break the stigma surrounding men's mental health and raise awareness for positive change. That's Wednesday, November 26th at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station, Love 101, The Mailbox, Monday.
Go trapping like Mary, you want to use your boot kick off chocolate.
Welcome back to Love 101 FM station, your family station. This is the program The Rock. And just before we went for the break, we were looking at the Back to the Bible, Behind the Bible feature by Roland Gale on pillars. Gentlemen, we're here to discuss that. Our two guests are the Right Reverend Bishop Garth Minot, Bishop of Kingston, and Daniel Dodd, yet to be deemed Reverend. We know he's in college studying to have that title fitted to his name. Gentlemen, your own thoughts on the Behind the Bible, the different pillars that Roland spoke to. Bishop, you look like you're ready to go.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, it's interesting. You mentioned purple and white earlier. Because many would know that behind that purple and white is the Anglican Church. So what people can't see and probably don't know is a very active organization. And I would say the same thing about the phrase behind the Bible, because behind the Bible is God and people. God created heaven and earth, and God created people. And so much of, in fact, all the pillars that Rowan spoke about really relate to people. They were highlighted in the first instance because there were issues relating to people. If you take Jacob, for example, there was this split between his brother and himself, sort of a fight emotionally, physically, and otherwise between them. So once we talk about behind the Bible, we have to recognize the primacy of God as the author of the Bible. I'll say more about that later. But also, more importantly, people believing in God, struggling with their faith, struggling with each other, having and experiencing numerous tensions. I don't think we should downplay those things. So when we talk about the later, we're going to come to the wonders of water, and maybe I should say something here about the Hebrew word for water, which has as its root in the English word mayhem, chaos. And some of us will remember that Genesis 1, verse 1, God created the heavens and the earth from chaos, basically. So when we talk about the pillars, as Rowan described them, it's really about people's relationship with God and the sort of tenures, the structured, but also the turbulent nature of our relationship with God. Ultimately, what it means is our relationship with God is dynamic. It's not fixed. It's not permanent in the sense that it's not changing. It changes. Sometimes we are faithful. Sometimes we are rebellious. Sometimes we are calm. Sometimes we are in chaos. And that is the dynamic nature of the relationship. So the pillars are reminders that while we are growing and evolving and maturing, we have a God who is that ever-present help, that ever-present stable reality. If we can think of pillars not just literally as a fixed thing, but as a metaphor. A pillar represents God as a stable force in our lives.
Bless you, Bishop. Sir Daniel, the actors remind us the purpose in our lives are there. I hear Bishop is saying that although they are structural, although they remind us, are they permanent? Are they things that can be moved, should be moved? Do you replace pillars or do you just leave them there? What do you do with them?
Man, first I must say Bishop took the words right out my mouth. Well said, Bishop. Definitely. Pillars do act as a reminder to us all. If you'd recognize while Rohan was speaking, you'd recognize that for every pillar that is mentioned within the Bible, there is divine encounters. And as Bishop would have said, there are dynamics to the way how God would interact with man. And you see that same dynamics in the different contexts to which pillars are used. I personally believe, yes, they do serve, of course, as a reminder and a long-standing reminder, to be exact, because you're looking at it now in our days. You can see these pillars being mentioned, and it serves as a message for our generation today. Normally, it's a memorial, as Bishop would have said, to show that okay, this divine encounter that this character within the Bible would have had, based from whatever situation of the time, serves how faithful God is, his strength, how he's a provider, etc., etc., etc. And so it's a case where we can be able to learn from these experiences, right? A pillar is not just there for the moment. It's not a momental thing, but it's there for a long-standing memorial thing, right? And it's for generations to come. So every time when Abraham, perhaps, let's say, set up, let's say, a monument or an altar or so, you know, when persons passed by it later on in the future, it's a reminder to them of the encounter, the divine encounter, in fact, that God would have had with Abraham. And so these things are symbolic to how God interacts with man. Yeah.
Gentlemen, I think putting both of what you have said together really encapsulates all that pillars are about. They're reminders, they're memorials, they're there to help us if we get lost too. We can use them almost as signposts to redirect us to where we need to be. And so we thank Roland, and I know we're making the mistake and saying
Ro-
Roland for his insight into telling us about pillars. I want to get into your opening statements on the wonders of the waters before we get into our next break. So 3 minutes to one, 2 minutes to the other, or 2.5, however you want to divide it. But we want your opening statements on this matter of the wonders of water from Genesis to Revelation. What has significant meaning? So we want you to tell us now in your opening statement. The wonders of waters, gentlemen. You're prepared to come this morning to deal with this. Let's go. I start
Okay.
with the Right Reverend Bishop.
Thank you so much. Well, once again, thanks for this opportunity to be on and to speak to this very relevant topic, the wonders of the waters. And as you said in your opening, Courtney, given the devastation wrought by Hurricane Melissa, it's interesting how God's providence works, that this discussion should have taken place, as you said, before the hurricane, and the nature of this discussion would not have been taking place in this form were it before the hurricane. Now that the hurricane has happened, the sort of nature of the discussion is changing. So throughout the discussion, I want to focus on two primary Bible passages. I will make references to others, but the first one is Psalm 136, and verse 6 says, "Who spread out the earth upon the waters, for his mercy endures forever." And I've already made the point that the Hebrew word for water has as its kind of base the word mayhem. So it's chaos, it's confusion, but at the same time, God is operating on the water. So the chaos is not let loose as an end in itself. God is in the midst of the mayhem. And the second passage I want to use is all of Revelation 22, but in particular, and because I have a short opening, I want to make reference to verse 17, where it speaks to the fact that the invitation is to those who are thirsty, and God knows there are many people in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa that are thirsty. Somebody just told me this morning that they gave someone 3 bottles of water and they drank 2 bottles right there on the spot because of the extent of the thirst. The invitation is anyone who is thirsty, let them come and take from the free gift of the water of life. And this is something I'll say more later about the Greek use of the word water. It is literal, it is metaphorical, it is dynamic like the Old Testament use of the word, because ultimately, and both in the Old Testament and the New Testament, the word for water points to God and to creation. And that's why your theme, as I'm suggesting, the wonders of the water, is so appropriate, because it talks about the force, the destructive nature of water, but also the life-giving nature of water.
Thank you, Bishop. Let's bring in Daniel. Daniel, it's your turn. Your opening statements.
Yes, definitely. Water, it's, for me, put it, a significant phenomenon. Water itself is older than time. It's older than time. It's the oldest witness to the glory of God, to the testimony of God. If you look at Genesis chapter 1 to 2, which substantiate this fact, you'd recognize before time began, there was water. Specifically, it says, "Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters." Water is very symbolic, especially as it relates to spiritual activities. Those who are not a part of the kingdom would have a great understanding of this, and they will use water for different means to whether cast perhaps ungodly, you know ungodly influence within the earth. And so it's also used in terms of us identifying ourselves with Christ in terms of baptism and the death, the burial, and the resurrection. So it is used throughout various spiritual activities, right? But have we truly understand the depth and the mystery of it? I don't believe we have. I have a statement here that many people,
I don't know if
perhaps.
you want to save that statement for a bit, Daniel. We're going to take our third
Okay,
break. It's 10:45, and when we come back, so stick a pin right there. We
no
come right
problem.
back after this break. The wonders of water. Our guests, Daniel Dodd and the Right Reverend Bishop Minot, are with us today. This is The Rock. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison, sitting in for Bishop Steve Errol Blair. We'll soon come back.
This is a national call for nurse volunteers. Jamaica must recover after Hurricane Melissa. Our communities must heal. If you're a licensed registered nurse, enrolled assistant nurse, or registered midwife, your skills can make a life-saving difference. Join the recovery effort. Contact the Health Emergency Operations Center at 8881-LOVE. That's 888-6653, or visit moh.gov.jm to sign up today. Let's heal together. Let's rebuild together. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Big project, no problem. At H&L Rapid True Value, this Black Friday brings big savings with deals for days on houseware, lighting, tiles, and tools, helping you save early and make that next home project feel easy. Keep the savings rolling with Bobo Paint on Easy Care and Painter Select. Plus, great prices on building supplies, lumber, ply, and more. H&L Rapid True Value. Start right. Start here. Terms and conditions apply.
November is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. On the next episode of The Mailbox, we'll be focusing on the global theme, Closing the Empathy Gap. This theme focuses on addressing societal barriers that prevent men from seeking help and prioritizing their mental health. It's all about encouraging everyone to advocate for, listen to, and support men in their lives, promoting a culture where men feel comfortable discussing their emotions and challenges. You are invited to join the conversation with our guest, Mr. Feliciano Thorpe, guidance counselor, as he shares on the great opportunity to break the stigma surrounding men's mental health and raise awareness for positive change. That's Wednesday, November 26th at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station, Love 101. The Mailbox, Monday. You want to use your foot kick off. Welcome back to the program, The Rock. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison, sitting in for Bishop Steve Errol Blair. We're discussing the topic, Wonders of the Waters. With me are our two distinguished guests, Daniel Dodd and Bishop Garth Minot. And just before we went for the break, Daniel was about to give a statement, but I want him to know, just to continue after his opening statement, the discussion here, we're talking about the creative and foundational power of water. Water as judgment, water as healing and cleansing, water as provision and life, baptism and salvation. Daniel, you may continue.
Say, because water is used in many ways, and the devil tends to mimic what the kingdom would have provided. And there's a scripture that talks about the fact that the children of the world are a lot wiser than those who are of the kingdom. And
Luke
sadly,
18, verse 6.
sadly, people misuse the resources to which God would have provided. And many people who are involved in, let's say, witchcraft or occult practices often have perhaps a deeper awareness of the spiritual realm than the average Christian. And you guys can, combat me on this one if I'm wrong. But their knowledge, in fact, is actually twisted and dangerous, and of course rooted in deception. But Christians possess the truth and the authority of God, but often lack spiritual understanding or training. And I believe that the enemy exploits this gap. And so when you hear of stories or rumors where witches would use water for different things, I'm not sure if we might lead there, but you ask yourself and you wonder, why is it or how is it that they do these things or understand these depths of knowledge, right? And for us, we just view water as just water. We see it, we drink it, we just know say that we don't understand the mystical you know
Force and wonders
yeah.
of that
So
element.
there's a lack of knowledge, and I believe that the enemy exploits this gap once again. So just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, man.
Amazing that you should put up that out there, Daniel, because we also have a religious group known as the
Mhm.
Revivalists who use this water too. They put it
Oh, Lord.
in a cup, and let me not go much further on that because it,
Stepping
it,
into
it
deep
can form
waters
a
there.
crest. So the mystical powers of waters, Bishop, we use it for so many things. Talk to us a bit more on what you're aware of there.
Certainly. So, in philosophy, for example, which I've studied quite a bit of, um, there are three elements of the earth: earth, fire, and water. And it is said that these three things constitute most of the elements for those who study biology and archaeology and so on. These three things constitute much of the reality that we are seeing around us. And that is why the matter of different religions and religious practices and cults using water is so fundamental, because of the understanding that it is part of that core element of life. In other words, we can't deal with reality sufficiently unless we deal with earth, fire, and water. And so the real issue then is, how do we understand it in Christian terms? And therefore, I think that's part of the reason the Bible is so central in our understanding and analysis of this, not in an exclusive sense, but that for us as Christians, the Bible remains as a benchmark for that. So if you take the first passage I mentioned earlier from Psalm 136, it begins the psalm by talking about giving thanks to the Lord, for he is good, his mercy endures forever. So from a Christian standpoint, from a Jewish standpoint, the idea is that all of reality is rooted in God. And therefore, the way we understand water, the way we understand earth, the way we understand fire, all relate to how we understand and appreciate the work of God in the world. And ultimately and finally, and this is a refrain in the Psalm 136, his mercy endures forever. So that, yes, we're going to say it more and more, that water is a destructive force. And we saw that in Hurricane Melissa, some people who did not evacuate because they felt, one, some people felt the hurricane is not coming and therefore they don't need to evacuate, or two, those who felt that even if the hurricane is coming, they are safe where they are, and so they're not moving. They underestimated the power and the force of water. And so when those waves came in at 15 feet, at 20 feet, at 25 feet, when some people tried to run at that point, they realized that the destructive force of water was just overwhelming. It's too much. Now, it is sad that we have lost lives in these ways, but I think it's a reminder to all of us that water is a reminder that we must not take life for granted. We must not take God for granted. We must not take ourselves for granted. We must not take the life that God has given to us for granted. We are not in charge. We are not in control of life. And therefore, we need to strive at all times to live under the mercy and the guidance of God. And in doing so, it is very important that we encourage other people to respect the forces of water. So, yeah, we know all kinds of religious people are using water in all kinds of ways. And part of it goes back to what I said earlier in terms of water as an essential element of life. But at the same time, we must also recognize that for us as Christians, God created water and uses water to sustain life in this world. And what it requires of us, as the psalmist says, give thanks.
Thank you, Reverend Man. So we can see water from two different ends of the spectrum, a signs of provision and giving life. But also we can see water as judgment. We saw in Genesis, the flood was sent. I'm trying to remember if it's Methuselah's name that meant deluge and flood. And that was what was going to become what was happening next. Daniel, water as life, as we just discussed, that different religious bodies use water for different purposes, which is the four element: earth, wind, fire, water. The Hindus do the same. I don't know if you're a little child like me at heart, we'll watch the program The Avatar. So you have airbender, waterbender, fire. He's laughing, which means he must know what I'm talking about. Water as judgment. Keep your head up, son. We here. But also as a provision of life, healing and cleansing. I want us to talk about the healing and cleansing, because even now, what's happening mainly in the western end of the island, I heard a report this morning on the outbreak of leptospirosis, and it seemed as if water is a very good transportation mechanism, for carrying bacteria and the virus. There's a bacterial spirosis. Talk to us a bit. Water as healing and cleansing, even although we can see it as judgment.
Okay, yeah. So the other spectrum to it is it being a cleanser and a healer. And we would have had a record of that within the Bible, especially if we're looking at areas within Exodus chapter 30, I believe, around between 17 to 21, and within the book of Leviticus chapter 14, where God would have commanded the Israelites to use water for purification, right? So it's a symbol to show that, hey, there's a possibility for removal of sin or impurity or defilement, right? There's always been this idea within the world that as it relates to water, there is this aspect of it that can bring forth a level of healing and cleansing. For those who watch Avatar, we see we will see Katara doing some little swoosh 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 with her water, and she put it on the wound, and there
You're the
you have a
boss,
swoosh.
Kitara name, man. Good stuff.
And then there you go, whoosh, the person is healed, right? So there is this phenomenal proper you know this phenomenal property of water to which can provide healing. Jesus also used water, in fact, to restore life and wholeness, and in healing the blind, cleansing the leper, and offering living water, as what my bishop would have mentioned, to thirsty souls. Right? If you guys remembered, when he was healing a particular man, he sent him to wash his eyes within a specific pool. And so therefore, he began to see little by little. So
Daniel,
they are
I wanted to get deeper. I wanted to get deeper in it, but let's take a pin up on another break.
Peace
It's
and peace.
10:59. We're going to come back directly to you because I want to hear more, not necessarily about Kitara, but about water as a cleansing. So, you're listening to the program The Rock. I'm Courtney Morrison sitting in for Bishop Harold Blair Jr., my guests Daniel Dodd and the Right Reverend Garth Minot. We come right back after these messages.
The Urban Development Corporation is pleased to announce that following the passage of Hurricane Melissa, several of our landmark attractions have officially reopened. The world-famous Duns River Falls and Park, Harmony Beach Park, Otrius Bay Beach, and Turtle River Park are once again ready to welcome families, communities, and visitors. In the spirit of national recovery, these spaces stand as symbols of Jamaica's strength, unity, and resilience. UDC remains committed to supporting our people and rebuilding stronger. UDC, building a stronger, more resilient Jamaica together.
Start your day informed, alert, and ahead of the curve. Join us at 6:30 a.m. for the latest breaking news, weather updates, and everything you need to know. Clear, concise, connected. It's your morning news right here on Love 101 FM, the family station. On Mondays, the morning news is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign.
Where are the campus eyes? Students are strapped up in a prize.
November is Youth Month, so we are celebrating the achievements of our young people and empowering them. This Tuesday on Campus Connection, we will be focusing on volunteering in a time of crisis. Jamaicans, whether young or old, are known for giving back and making a difference. Youth are sharing skills, energy, and time in support of rebuilding our beloved nation. Join us as special guests, Force Executive Officer in the Jamaica Combined Cadet Force, Colonel Nicholas Taylor, and Head Officer for Engineer Training and Operations, also with the Jamaica Combined Cadet Force, and the JCCF rep in the National Emergency Operations Center, Major Paul Campbell, as they discuss how the cadets of the force are advancing Jamaica's road to recovery and how youth can get involved to meet the needs of their communities. Plus, don't miss our Creative Block segment with Miss Sasheen White, Head of the Home Economics Department at Charlemont High School, designer and CEO of Sashay's Creation. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign from the Ministry of National Security and Peace. Tune in on Tuesday, November 25 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the program The Rock. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison sitting in for Bishop Harold Blair Jr. Today is just such a great day. We're talking about the wonders of the waters, but we want to remind you that you can send your WhatsApp messages or voice notes at 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock, or you can call our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 8, or post comments on our Love 101 Facebook and YouTube page to participate. We're talking about water and the wonders of water. Its creative use, its healing and cleansing purposes, its destructive purpose, and it means of a transport as well. Our guests, Daniel Dodd and Right Reverend Bishop Garth Minot, are with us today discussing this topic. Two very knowledgeable and distinguished gentlemen. Daniel, you were talking, you were on a point just before we left about the cleansing and water ability to cleanse. Talk to us a bit more.
Yeah. So where I was heading at is this. Water itself is not just a medium. It's more than a medium, right? It's the conduit of God's power. When you're thinking about the healing factor, it's a conduit of God's power. Just like how in churches we would normally use oil. The oil of itself, it's not of value, but what's associated with it. So me talking here as it being a conduit of God's power, where obedience and faith meets, there is divine restoration, right? So it's not just the water itself, but for us as believers, where healing is concerned, where there is obedience, when there's obedience, when there's faith, right? We see the impact of that, where divine restoration comes into play. And we see where it is used throughout scripture, where it has been used to heal. Jesus himself has used it to heal, where we have used it for baptism and all of those purposes, right? So it is a conduit for the power of God to be demonstrated.
Indeed. Water is a great transport medium, and it conveys a number of things. If we know, even in our own body, is it 72% of our body fluids are
Yeah,
water? Is
between
water.
70 to
And so
75.
it's very, very
Yeah.
important. No wonder Kitara could blood bend. But we get back to that. But we see, right, Reverend Bishop. I see I have you smiling and laughing as well, you know. Laughter is good medicine. But we're talking about the power and the wonders of water.
Yes, sure.
Baptismal purposes. We use it
Yes,
for baptismal purposes in church as well.
certainly.
Does water save?
Yeah, so Daniel mentioned um, the the power of water, what I would call the sacramental sign
Yeah.
and symbol of water, the sacramental sign and symbol of water. Sacrament is an outward and visible sign, that is what you can see, so that's the water. And the inward and spiritual grace, that is the grace of God through the power of the Holy Spirit, um, and through the help of Jesus, to unite people to the divine self. So the sacrament is based on two dimensions: what you can see, water, and what you can't see, the power of the Holy Spirit at work. And what that demonstrates is what I mentioned earlier, the essential element of water in life. So, for example, one of the illustrations I use when I'm preparing people for baptism is that baptism is a sign and symbol of life, pretty much similar to when a woman is going to deliver. One of the first things that happens is that her water breaks. That is,
Yeah.
the placenta opens and the amniotic fluid flows out. That's a natural process, but it's a natural process pointing to something coming. It's like the purple and white in one place, pointing to a church behind the creation of that institution that you know so well. So when what in Jamaica we say when the birth is going to take place, we say the headwater bursts or breaks. So we know that when that happens, that's not an end in itself. It means something is coming behind it, and you need to prepare for that. In the same way for baptism, the water of baptism, whether it's in a pool, in a basin, in a river, in the sea, whatever it is, the water itself is a sign that something greater is coming. And that greater thing is salvation in and through Jesus Christ. So that the water is never an end in itself. It is pointing beyond itself to the greater reality, which is God. And so spiritually, what we say is that water, anywhere you see water, whether it is in your glass, you're going to drink, your bottle, the sea, the river, in your pipe, wherever you see water, it points to and is pointing to a greater reality. And that is the reality of God. And also, that not only is it pointing to this reality, but it's a reality, God, that is inviting us and all of creation into relationship with the divine. So, in a way, when the church baptizes, it is saying that what we do for this individual by immersing this person, by sprinkling water on this person, what we're doing for this individual is what God desires to do for everyone.
Yeah.
God desires a relationship with everyone. So it's not just that one person needs to be baptized, or 10 persons need to be baptized, or 15 persons need to be baptized. The whole world needs to be baptized.
Mm.
And therefore, what we do for one person is symbolic of what God desires for all of creation. As Jesus says in John 10:10, I have come that you may have life
Mm.
and have it in abundance. That's not a promise just for Christians. It's a promise for everyone, and it's a promise for everything. So we shouldn't leave the discussion without talking about climate change and climate patterns and so on. We can talk about that later on, because when we talk about water, water is life, it's a force of life, and it's not just for human beings. But for now, in terms of baptism, it's a sign that God desires, yearns for, longs for relationship with all of humanity. And if only everyone would become baptized.
Reverend Minot, you just said something that I've never heard it put that way before, but it's so profound and great that you say it is a sign of something great to come, even with baptism, that points you in a particular direction. It is just amazing knowing the properties of water, two parts of hydrogen, one part of oxygen, going into the chemistry of the thing now. But when you look at it, it's a trifold entity, element, as a matter of fact, which speaks to our triune God as well. Daniel, talk to
Mm.
me a bit the
Yeah.
prophetic and apocalyptic water imagery that exists, because I also want to get back to the climate change issue. I probably we should, because I want to hear that from Reverend Minot, because we seem to really not pay much attention to that. When there's a preponderance of water, we bawl, and when there's the absence of water, we cry even louder, because without it, life is not sustainable. So,
Mm.
but I want you though, Daniel, tell me a bit more about the prophetic and apocalyptic outlook and imagery that water brings with it. As I said, even the name Methuselah, I'm really hoping is the right name I have, that speaks to deluge, to flood. It was a prophetic name that spoke to what will happen with water and how God will take it and carry. Because even the rainbow, they say, is still um, light being diffracted in water to produce those colors. I don't know how many persons know that. The great institution that I went to taught me these things. And so, Daniel,
Which
the
institution
prophet.
was that? Amen. But yeah, man. Just to piggyback on Sir's point for a quick few seconds. You know, when you look at water, it always give birth to something, right? It's a source. It's almost like a source of life. It's likened to the
Mm,
source of life.
it is.
When you look at Revelation, for example, I believe where it talks about in Revelations 22, it talks about um, the throne, at the feet of the throne, there is like a fountain of water, right? And it's so funny that, when Jesus would liken himself as this source, whoever connects to me, whoever comes to me, they shall not thirst again, right? There's always this lightning to the source of water, right? However, as it relates to the whole matter of prophetic water imagery, right? There's always, as I would have mentioned, a release, right? A birthing from the essence of water. If you're looking at Isaiah 44, verse 3, it says, I will pour out water on the thirsty land. I will pour out water, pour out my spirit. I will pour out my spirit, right? There's always something coming from water itself, and it paints the image for something to come, right? Sadly, if I'm going to be honest with myself, I'm not so quite familiar with the term. It's coming to me. The M word that you mentioned about the Methuselah, right? I haven't gone that deep about that specifically, right? So perhaps Bishop could perhaps educate me where that is concerned. I'm here to learn as well, right? But at the same time, there are in fact evidences where, as it relates to, of course, the prophetic, where water is meant to birth certain phenomenons, right? We're looking at Noah's flood, for example. There's always the warning to which Noah would have preached about a flood coming and all of that, and yet still the people did not believe. However, when it came, there was judgment that was cast. So um we mustn't take it, of course, lightly, as relates to the context to which whole water is used and what it means prophetically.
Yes, I want to support that in terms of the Methuselah theory. It's not specifically highlighted in the Bible, but it is
Yeah.
said in popular tradition that at the same time Methuselah died, or while he was dying, is the same time the flood, Noah's flood, was taking place, and so there's the thinking that there's some correlation between the death of Methuselah, and his name means to bring death or to bring forth death, and therefore it is suggested or said that when he died, it was sort of simultaneous with the flood in Genesis with Noah. Be that as it may, the point is that the you see the way the Bible uses water, and I think this is why again the theme is so critical: the wonders of water. The way the Bible uses water, ultimately and finally, is about pointing beyond itself to someone else. Because let's not forget that Mesopotamian culture is a mix of cultures, really, that existed around Israel, from whom we get the Old Testament. That whole Mesopotamian culture or cultures had various understandings of water and how water is used and is to be used. So for some people, water is God. Not that God created it or it points to God. For some of the cultures, water is God. And so the Hebrew people are saying, no, water is powerful, yes. Water is dynamic, yes. Water has healing powers, yes. But water is not an end in itself. Water is pointing to a greater reality. So, for example, when in Second Kings chapter 5, the Naaman, he was a powerful man, went to the prophet and wanted to see the prophet. Of course, the prophet wouldn't see him, and he took offense at that. But he wanted to be healed because his king sent him to the man of God, and the man of God sent him to the Jordan to water. And of course, he was very upset that how dare the man of God not come out to have conversation with him. But the little maiden, little girl in the house say, man of God, rather Naaman, I have seen this man of God do many things. I think it's not going to take away anything from you just to go down to the Jordan and dip 3 times in there. And he did that and was healed. And this is where I come back to the elements I mentioned earlier, because after Naaman was healed, what did he do? The man of God still wouldn't see him. And so he said, all right, since you won't see me, allow me to take some earth. Listen to that. Allow me to take some earth from here in Israel and take it back to my country in Syria. And I will put this earth in the temple. So every time people come to the temple in Syria, it's not a Jewish temple. It's not a religious temple as we understand the worship of God. But every time people come to this temple and see this earth from Israel, they will learn about the God who created the heavens and the earth. Isn't that wonderful?
Interesting. Yeah.
Naaman is saying, I have come as a Syrian, not as a Jew. I have experienced the healing power of God in water. And I want to, from henceforth, testify that the God who created water is the God who heals and transforms. And so everyone who comes into this temple now in Syria must learn about this God. I don't think you can ask for a more powerful testimony
Hey,
about the water there.
That is in fact true.
thanks for you know when we really look at water. I mean, and the story that Bishop just spoke on, the water that Naaman was to dip in was muddy, dirty. Is there not another river? Why would you choose this particular river for me to go in? No, if I want healing, I want some clean water. This
Yes.
one seemed like it's just going to make me worse. Probably the
But
thoughts that went through
you know,
Naaman's mind.
you recognize, as I would have said earlier, about the whole conduit, because though he may not had the sufficient faith to believe that he would have gotten healed, but yet
Yes.
you see the obedience part that played out, right? That allowed him to have the restoration that he had for that moment, right? So when I
Awesome.
mentioned earlier about the conduit of the power of God and divine restoration, there has to be the condition of of one's obedience and faith to it, and not necessarily just praising, as what my bishop would have mentioned about just praising the water itself or worshiping the water itself, right? It's obedience to the divine instruction and having that faith in God. Yeah.
Yeah.
And indeed, oh, go ahead, Bishop. Go ahead.
Yes. No. So yes. Behind every action in physics, it's an equal opposite reaction. That is to say,
Yeah.
God is
Third law of
behind every
Newton.
action. So, for example, another example is Jesus healing using spit. And you mentioned earlier, Courtney, the body made up of, well, 80% of the body is made up of water.
Mhm.
Right.
So here it is. Jesus is healing, and again we talk about the elements. He takes earth or the dust of the earth, mixes it with spittle,
Mhm.
and puts it on the man's eyes.
Yes.
And through a process, it didn't happen instantly, but through a process,
Right.
the man was able to see. Now, what is that teaching us? Again, it is teaching us that when we come to talk about God and to understanding the nature of God and the
Mhm.
reality of God, and it struck me that in much of this is in John's Gospel. The
Yes, it is.
Jesus using the spittle, Jesus washing the feet of the disciples. I'll come back to that. It's all in John's Gospel. And what is the fundamental principle of John's Gospel? The Word became flesh. That is, God in Jesus Christ is on earth. So God takes these two elements in Jesus, water, meaning the spit, and earth, mixes
But
them,
mhm.
and they become tools,
Mm.
instruments
Yeah.
of healing. Now, some people get stuck on the tools. You see,
Bishop, I think you need to say that one more time.
You hit it
they
on
get
the head. They
stuck
make
on
the
the
tool the
tools.
God
They think it's
instead
the
of
mud.
God of the tool.
Yes, instead of the God of the tools. You guys what I mean? And so
And God can use whatever element in what way He
God
wants
can
to use
use,
it. Oh
but the
God.
elements are created by God. The
Hey.
elements are not never ends in themselves. They are created by God to be used by God for God's purpose. And so God calls us in relationship with the divine. I said that earlier in terms of baptism. God
Mm.
calls us in relationship with the divine to utilize these tools that God has given to us and to the world.
Yes.
For what purpose? To praise and glorify God.
Yeah.
So when we come to deal with the matter of global warming and so on, what we will see is that there's a disobedience. Daniel spoke about obedience earlier, but
Yeah.
there's a sort of innate disobedience that is at work, not just among Christians, but people generally, where we're to utilize the elements of the earth for human flourishing, yes, but for the glory of God. What we have done instead is to take the elements and use them as ends in themselves. And so we begin to use them now to make money, to make profit, to make things, to advance in technology. all of these things to make us look good and to boost our pride and our ego, etc., rather than giving glory to the person and to God who created them
So in
ultimately.
agreement.
And so that's part of the challenge we face now in terms of global
Yes.
warming. So the rise in Earth's temperature is
Mm.
nothing but disobedience. We are doing what um, God does not um, approve of. That is, we're
Oh,
using the things that God has given to us, not for the glory of God and the advancement of humanity, but for the destruction of the environment. What do we find? I said earlier, for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. When you cut down the trees and you burn fossil fuel without controls and limits, the
Mm.
Earth's temperature rises. And so what we get is a rise in sea levels. And so it comes back now to haunt us. Flooding,
yes.
um, storm surges, all of these things. So we in Asia recently, and we continue to see it in the Philippines and in other places, we are seeing more and more intense flooding. And we have it now in Jamaica in terms of Hurricane Melissa,
Mm-hmm.
devastating hurricanes, all because of our disobedience. Uh, we are failing to obey the God who created the elements that have been given to us to serve God, but instead we have used them for selfish purposes.
Yeah.
Bishop, one of the things that they taught me again at that great institution is a process called the water cycle. And it creates imbalance in the water cycle. Now we can understand why we are suffering with such serious climate changes, because the water is supposed to be recycling itself in the earth, and it's not happening. So what you find is that the earth is responding. This is where the scripture comes in. The earth groans.
Yeah. For the
It is
yeah.
trying to now balance what is happening. I'm not getting enough water from the earth. So here what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the earth itself is responding because of its natural setup as to how to perform. And so to get that, there are more extreme situations. We have extreme droughts, and now we're having extreme hurricanes, weather systems that wreaks havoc and destruction on on the earth itself. So when it comes down to the issue of water conservation, remember when we were younger, y'all leave the hose running. Anytime you wash a car, you could have filled up all a dumper truck with water to wash one car. Now we have to be limited to a bucket or whatever. And so if we're not careful, as you said, the lack of obedience in how we actually use water and how we think about using it as a source and as a resource, we are setting ourselves up for disaster naturally. Rev,
Yeah.
I want you to get back. You mentioned a chapter in the book of Revelation that you are to get back to, and I'm really waiting for you to get back to it, because I don't know if that is the part that talks about the apocalyptic nature or what we're seeing. But again, we're also noticing, if we're not recognizing, those who are listening, those who are watching, that when the scripture says, come you who are thirsty, come and drink, that the Lord himself is the source. He's living water. I want us to talk about that too. But we're coming up on another break in a minute or so. But the Lord himself says, I am living water. He and he says to us, out of you shall flow living water as well. That sort of symbolism, that sort of connotation with who God represents, or how he even symbolizes himself in the earth, is something that I want to look at. We
Perfect.
are at our penultimate break, but indeed, this is The Rock. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison, sitting in for Bishop Steve Harold Blair. I am with Bishop Garth Minor and Sir Daniel Dodd. We're talking about the wonders of water, and we're going to come right back after this break. Stay tuned, stay with us.
fight against dengue. Take less paracetamol, the pain and fever reliever for your dengue symptoms. It's safe and effective. The time by less paracetamol is
25 years ago, Holt's Hardware opened its doors with a very important mission to serve our customers with honesty, hard work, and quality service.
As we celebrate this milestone, we are filled with gratitude for all the customers who have supported us along the way.
That's why, as part of our 25th anniversary, we are giving back to you, our valued customers.
Through our annual customer appreciation sale on Children's Street from Friday, November 28th to Sunday, November 30th.
That's 3 days. Yes, you have heard me right. 3 days packed with activities, treats, giveaways, and up to 50% discount on selected items. We have not only helped you to build houses, we help you to build hope.
From our family to yours, thank you for 25 amazing years of trust, loyalty, and love.
Eternal Father.
Right now, our brothers and sisters in Western Jamaica are hurting. Homes have been destroyed. Families are struggling to start again after Hurricane Melissa.
Love 101 FM, the family station, is calling on you to join hearts and hands in love in action.
You can make a difference today by donating cash or kind to help rebuild lives.
We're collecting non-perishable food items,
Bottled water,
baby supplies,
hygiene products,
toiletries,
cleaning supplies,
bedding, tarpaulins, and small household items.
Drop off your donations of cash and kind at Love 101 FM or participating partner churches island-wide.
Every can, every package, every dollar helps bring hope to the hurting. Together, we are Love in Action. Love 101 FM,
the family station.
Welcome back to the program, The Rock, here on Love 101 FM, the family station, serving you for the last 32 years. Doing well, and indeed bringing you hope, especially now in times where our people do need to hear some good news. We remind you that you can post all your comments on our Facebook Live, The Rock broadcast, or send us WhatsApp messages or voice note at 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock. Voice notes must be no more than 30 seconds. We share them throughout the program. Remember though, if there's a topic you'd like for us to discuss, a topic that has the church on different sides of the fence, let us know. We're really thinking about this prophecy thing, that one of us on different side of the fence, but we need a program on that. Producer! And if you have spiritual passion, knowledge, and background, I would like to be considered as a special guest. Also, let us know by emailing us. Our guest today, I see my producer said we have a topic coming up on the 6th of January 2026 called Predictions. Well, I wish it did come earlier. I probably need to be on that program, Prophecy and Predictions. Remember, though, you can still call us 876-968-8328 or 8327 to participate on the program. Our guest today, the Right Bishop Garth Minot and Sir Daniel Todd, who is aspiring to the position of Reverend. He is the head of the Students' Council there at that great and famous institution. Is it UTEC? Let me see. But my age, I'm allowed to forget things. And the Bishop of Kingston is the Right Bishop Garth Minot. I know I could get that part right. Before we went for the break, gentlemen, I think laughter is just good medicine. I have a jacket on, but I can't be a stiff jacket. I don't know how to do it. Forgive me for those of us who think I'm not taking the program seriously. But I want us. Did I say Todd or did I say Dodd? I'm seeing
I,
that
I
I'm being
thought
corrected.
I
Sir
thought you
Dodd.
said, man. We're not too worried about you, man.
Oh my God, that's a slip of the tongue, man. Me know much better. See, again, at my age, those things are permissible, but my apologies, sir. We 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 are looking at wonders of water. When you read the book of Genesis, God divided the waters, those in the firmament above and the firmament below. Water is so important. Water, we have one company in Jamaica say water is life.
Mm.
Yes? And again, we're reminded of the spiritual things that the Lord tells us out of our belly shall flow rivers of living water. That John 4 chapter, as Bishop Minot has said, is that indeed the fact of the matter. John spoke so much as to water. Water can also represent humility, even in the case of Naaman, but also in the case of John 13, Jesus allowing his disciples to wash his feet. And every time I think about that washing of feet, when Jesus was saying to Peter, wash my feet, and Peter said, no, and he said, well, if you know that, you can't reach the kingdom. And Peter said, all right, bathe me. It was now, it just moved from feet to the entire body. And some of us are like that. The wonders of water, healing properties, transportation methods, um, 80% of our body makeup, but indeed it also carries with itself a powerful element that says when it comes in abundance, I hear the sound of the abundance of rain, that chariots can be washed away, that the entire earth can be flooded and only 8 remaining alive. But as well, we know that it has healing powers to make us whole. Rev
Mm.
Minot, that chapter you were referring
Yes.
to in the book of Revelation. I want to
Yes.
hear some more on this.
Thank you. Yes, you did use a big word, at least for some of us, apocalyptic, when you're going on the break. And that word, in a way, means the
Yes.
future. And so that's part of the reason I use Revelation 22. And again, if we understand it from a dynamic perspective, on the one hand, when John says in Revelation 22, verse 8, I, John, am the one who heard, past tense, and saw, past tense, these things. So it means that what is described here, John already sees it. It is a reality. It's not just to come. And what John is describing here is that, of course, he was incarcerated in prison when he was writing this on an island, somewhere in Syria, we think. But in keeping with our what theme, wonders of water, there was not much water in that place. In fact, it was known that a lot of the prisoners would die of thirst because of a lack of water in that area. Also, we know that the general Palestine area, including where Israel is today, and Gaza and other places, there's a general lack of water in these places. So you understand why the Jordan River becomes so critical and other places in that area. So if that paints a picture of the reality on the ground, then Revelation 22, verse 1 probably makes sense. That is, the angel showed me the river of the water of life as clear as crystal flowing from the throne of God and the Lamb. So if you're in a place, Courtney and Daniel, where there is very little or no water, and suddenly you see water flowing, I am sure in your own mind that is revolutionary. It's
Yeah,
transforming,
a lot of question. Yeah.
and so that is what John, the picture John is painting for the Christians in the first century. That yes, your situation is bad now, but trust me, he would say God is making a way. God is breaking the stranglehold that the Roman government has, and you're going to see water flowing in places you have not seen them before. But from an eschatological standpoint, the apocalyptic side that you were talking about, it is to suggest that the God who made the heavens and the earth, and if you go back to that psalm I mentioned earlier, the God who made the earth and the waters, The God who made the heavens and the earth is transforming the reality as we see it now and providing not just water, but a kind and quality of water that we read about in John's Gospel again with Jesus and the woman at the well. Because Jesus is talking about living water, the water of life, whereas the woman is talking about the water in the bucket. The water of life is what John is talking about here. So, in the future, in this apocalyptic future, God is providing us with water, but not just any old water, living water, the water of life, the water which flowed from the side of Jesus. Remember when the
Yeah.
soldier
Pierce this side. Yeah.
pierced his side, blood and water flowed out. Now, in a literal sense, we said it earlier that the body is made up of 80% of water. So obviously that water will flow out. But the question is, why did John feel it important to capture that bit of information? That water flowed from the side of Jesus. It is to point to the greater reality of water, the water of life. From the side of Jesus flowed water. And that water is the water of life that is mentioned in Revelation 22, verse 1, and also Revelation 22, verse 17. And I've already said that anyone who is thirsty, that is thirst now, is not just thirsty for water, although that is a reality. But
Right.
thirst here is those who yearn for meaning, those who yearn for a sense of purpose, those who yearn for a sense of direction, those who yearn to know the will of God, those whose lives are bleak. There's no sense of direction. They don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. All of these people, this message from John's Gospel is pointing to them and to say to them, all is not lost. There is still hope. And the hope is that you have a quality of life in Jesus that is, notice how John puts it in verse 17. Let the one who wishes take the free gift, not just a gift, the free gift of the water of life. It doesn't cost us anything. It costs Jesus his life, but it doesn't cost us anything. That is the apocalyptic vision that to which John points us, that we have a future that is punctuated with life, the free gift of life in Jesus.
Awesome. Thank you,
Amen.
Reverend Minot. Daniel, any comments?
Man, that was profound indeed. And which is true. We do have access to this life, to this water to which God would have provided. Of course, on the flip side of that, we are indeed seeing certain prophecies. I took the moment to look at Luke chapter 21, verse 25, right? And it reads thus. It says, there will be signs in the moon, in the sun, the moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and the tossing of the sea. And we're seeing water again being likened to that here, right? And we're seeing this level of great unrest, whether political instability, whether we're looking at cultural upheaval, society anxiety. We're seeing within the midst of the opportunity to which people have to access this water, this life, we're seeing this level of disruption within our nations, right? And so the reality is real, right? And it shows that at the end of the day, the scriptures itself holds meaning, not just symbolical meaning alone, but it's life, it's reality, right? And so I just wanted to point that out, that of course, though we can live in a time of upheaval and turmoil, there is still the chance for us to really get ourselves connected to the source, to the fountain of life.
Awesome,
I want to
awesome.
support that in that verse 10, verse 10 and 11 of Revelation 22. says that we must not seal up the prophecy of the scroll, though the time is near. Then
Hmm.
in verse 11 it says, let the one who does wrong continue to do wrong.
Yeah.
Let the vile person continue to be vile. Let the
Yeah.
one who does right continue to do right. And let the holy person continue to be holy. Why is the writer suggesting that?
Good question.
Stick a
Yeah.
pin right there. This is our final break. It's
Okay. All right.
11:45.
Okay.
I
Amen.
want you. It's just amazing. In the beginning, you see chaos upon the earth, Lord dividing the waters, and by the time you get to the book of Revelation, you see a river that's pure, that's flowing.
Yeah.
We'll come right back to hear about the hope of water. It's now 11:45. The program is The Rock. I'm Courtney Morrison, sitting in for Bishop Steve Blair, along with Bishop Garth Minot and Daniel Dodd as our rockers, as Steve would say. Soon come back.
Attention seniors, great news! Your November 2025 social pension is here and ready for collection. Simply check your text messages to confirm your payment details. For more information, call 876-922-8013 or visit the ministry's website, mlss.gov.jm. The Social Pension Program, caring for our elderly. A message from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, providing opportunity, stability, and social protection.
We are by your side, looking after life. We've been here for 25 years and we are
Guardian Life.
just getting started. Leading the way every day, protecting you and yours at every stage.
Guardian Life.
Looking after life, caring for family, caring for you. Looking after life is what we do.
For every generation, for every stage, your partner for 25 years. Guardian Life.
Looking after life. Well, if you want buy appliances for your home with the quality high and the price low, get it on Habasco. Get it on Habasco. Bashco. For everything where you need. Bash quality service guaranteed and Habasco. Bashco. That gives you more. Yeah, Bashco. Get furniture for your house, bed linen, everything for your kitchen, rocks, hubs, and more at Bashco. The store that gives you more. Bashco.
Welcome back to the program, The Rock. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison here today. We're into our final segment. We've been discussing the wonders of water. Our rockers, our guests are Daniel Dodd and Reverend Bishop Garth Minot, Bishop of Kingston. And just before we went for the break, gentlemen, this is the segment where we're about to even give our final and closing statements, But indeed, we're allowed some time to speak to the issues and on the topic. It's interesting, as I said, in the beginning, you see the waters upon the earth and the Lord dividing the waters, those above and those below. And then by the time we get to the book of Revelation, there is a river that flows pure. It's crystal pure, So we see where once we see water, we should be thinking hope. Right, Reverend pointed out earlier that water should be pointing us to a greater solution, to something greater. And indeed, that's what it does. The Lord promises us He will never destroy us by water or by flooding. Come Melissa, come whatever you name. Never destroy us by that method. So Rev, may you go ahead and continue just where we left off.
Sure. So I pointed out in Revelation 22:11 that there's a mixed bag that's going on. So let the ones who are doing wrong continue to do wrong. Let those who are doing right continue to do right. And then in verse 14 it says, blessed are those who wash their robes, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may go through the gates into the city. Now we come full circle here. So we started in Revelation, where Adam and Eve disobeyed God, and so they were thrown out of the garden, and they did not have right of access to the garden. And then the Bible unfolded throughout. We know, as we said earlier, Jesus came, he died for us. Blood and water flowed from his side. And so the washing here now is in the blood and the water that flowed from the side of Jesus. And the writer's using a word that we know of in Matthew chapter 5 and Luke chapter 6 in the Beatitudes. Blessed. Blessed are those, happy are those, contented are those, excited are those who wash their robes. And in a funny way, it's not that we take our robes to Jesus and wash them. It's a metaphor. Is that Jesus is the one who washes us. We mentioned John 13 earlier, where Jesus washes the feet of the disciples. And so when he comes to Peter, we said it earlier, Peter says, no, you can't do that. And Jesus says, well, if I don't wash you, you have no part with me. And so, he says, wash all of me. Because the only way Peter is going to be happy, the only way he's going to find meaning, the only way he's going to find purpose is if he is washed by the blood and the water that flow from the side of Jesus. And so what we want to say to the people now in Western Central Jamaica that are suffering as a consequence of the passage of Hurricane Melissa, and I like the way you put it earlier, Courtney, the hope of water. All hope is not lost for those persons. That yes, they need water, and God knows they need a lot of it to flush toilet, to bathe, and so on. But the hope of God, who created the water, is with them. And whether they feel it or not, whether they know it or not, whether they experience it or not, whether they believe it or not, the hope of this living water flowing from the side of Jesus is a kind of never-ending flowing fountain. It doesn't stop. It is designed for everyone. And so we want those people to know that they are surrounded by this water, this hope, that will never leave them. And the other thing I would say quickly is that we know from experience, and COVID taught us this, that when people go through experiences like these, they are traumatized. And so mental illness is a consequence of going through this kind of trauma. So we can expect it from children, we can expect it from young people, we can expect it from men, we can expect it from women. So our churches now must become oases, that is, places of refreshing, life-giving water, so that anyone who shows up at church now must experience it as a place of hope, where we are proclaiming this life-giving drink, this river flowing from the home of God that is with us here in Jamaica, on the earth, and people can drink from it, as the woman at the well discovered, and will never thirsty again. So this is a critical time in our nation. And as I said at the beginning, I think it is providential that we have had to postpone this program for now, because our people need to hear that there's a hope that we have right now that is more powerful than any evil, any wickedness, any danger, any wrong that they could experience. And that hope is in Jesus.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for those statements. And Daniel, Sir Daniel, your statements bring some hope. Water is life. Let's hear you.
Yeah, definitely. It has always been God's intention to give life, right? It's always been life, though throughout scriptures coming up to this point in time, there has been myriads of problems, and perhaps people may deem it bad prophetic statements from various prophets and stuff, and for what we're seeing in the time. But at the end of the day, it is intention to bring life. The thing about it is that it is not for us to fear dry seasons. It is not for us to fear dry seasons, and a dry season may look different for a particular individual. But for living water is not found in circumstances. The living water of Christ is not found in circumstances, but in the presence of Jesus Christ. Within the book of John, it will talk about us abiding in the vine. We are the branches, and He is in the vine. And it is through us abiding with Him where, of course, we become one, but where we find hope, where we find sustenance, where we find that Him being the source of everything that we need. I think, of course, again, there's always seasons for everything, and there is no time period where where a season lasts forever. There has to come an end period for that particular season. It's the right time to put our trust in God, and especially for those who are affected by Melissa, um, and for those who perhaps may be affected psychologically too as well, indirectly, right? It's the right time to put our faith in God, and understanding that it is through Jesus Christ where we can remain content and have a sense of peace and wholeness, and just knowing that at the end of the day, right, things will work out according to His plan. He wishes no man to perish, but at the same time, He looks for all to come to Him, all to come to Him, right? And I think that's what we need to really focus on. Set our minds on the things that are above. Yeah.
Just awesome, just awesome. Again, I just want to recapture some of the things that were said. That water, and this part is something that I'm talking about mainly because I heard it. Also brings with it a sense of obedience. I think Daniel said it, that when it comes on to the issue of water, and Bishop Minot reinforced it by saying, look here, how we use it, if we're not using it for the glory of God, then it might bring about our own demise, as we're seeing with climate change and all that is happening around us. But water points to hope. The Lord says He is living water. He says, come, if you're thirsty, drink. That's the wonder of water, that the glory of God covers the earth as the waters cover the sea. And the greatest hope I still see is painted in the end. The river that flows there is crystal clear, and it brings a sense of purity, hope, and life everlasting. The wonders of water. And so we say this has been The Rock. And for information on how to get copies of the program, call our production department at 876-968-9596 or 7. If there's a topic you'd like for us to discuss, a topic that has the church on different sides of the fence, let us know. And I say thanks today to our special guests, Bishop Garth Minot and Sir Daniel Dodd, to our producer, Kathy Gale, and of course, all our listeners and watchers. I'm Courtney Morrison, and I'm handing us back to our facilitators in studio. I'm not sure, it probably is Lady Latifah or Dr. Nadine Blair, but whoever it is, thanks for facilitating us. Gentlemen, thank you for being here with us and taking the time. 2 hours and a little time for give up, you know.
Bucks, man.
So on The Rock, we don't mock and we don't wrap up. It's not a joke. And when we speak, it's not to be sarcastic or blasphemous. We ask questions that are honest and bring up issues we know you're struggling with, and go to the Bible for guidance. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison. Take care. Have a great day. Next week, you should see Reverend Hero Steve Blair. Blessings.
All right, we just heard from the